For today, let's talk about what an actor, a boxing legend, a dictator's son, a senator, and a loving mother have in common. They are all running to be the next president of the Philippines to replace this man, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. He's been a hugely popular but polarizing president. These elections are this upcoming May 9, 2022, and this race is already pretty wild. There's even some family drama. President Duterte's daughter Sara is in the mix, and so is this country's infamous political dynasty, the Marcoses.
It's not just between political parties. This is between warring political families.
It's like you're watching a telenovela.
So who are the main candidates? Who stands the best chance? And what's behind all the family feuding? There are a lot of moving parts with this election, and it all adds to the political intrigue. The main races are for president and vice president. So candidates can stand together as a team, but they don't have to, and they may even not end up in power together anyway.
President under one ticket and elect a vice president under another ticket.
In the congressional election happening, President Duterte is running for a seat in the Senate. It's a way for him to stay in politics because his 6-year presidential term is up and he can't run again. Now, when it comes to the race for the president, right now, there are really 5 main candidates. First up, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who also goes by the nickname Bongbong. He's the son of the late dictator Ferdinand Marcos and one of the front runners.
Hangad kong ibalik ang mapagkaisang paglilingkod ng magbubuklod sa ating bansa.
Emmanuel Pacquiao, famously known by his ring name Manny Pacquiao. The world-famous boxer is also in the ring. He's been a senator since 2016, but this time he is up for the top job and promising to fight corruption.
Really the Pacquiao fans of the boxing hero, and that's it. They vote for him only on that basis.
Then, there is Francisco Moreno Dumagoso, also known by his stage name Isko Moreno. He's a former teen idol who is now the mayor of the capital Manila and a self-styled centrist, and he hasn't lost his moves.
Down south, hood baby, make all the girls go crazy,
Go stupid. You smart like an A+ student.
Moreno is very active on social media. He dispenses medical advice and medical stories in his YouTube account.
Panfilo Lacson, famously known in his name Ping Lacson. He's been a senator since 2016, but this time he will run for the highest and promising position in the government to make the country a better place. Finally, Maria Leonor Robredo, mostly known by her name Lenny. She is the current Vice President of the Philippines but has been sidelined by President Duterte. And in this election, she's actually seen as the main opposition candidate. She's been pushing for human rights and is someone who would signify political if she won. But that's a big if, because in the past, that platform hasn't been very successful.
That was what the opposition did. They kept on hammering against human rights violations, the extrajudicial killings that were connected to the Duterte administration, and they lost big time.
But here's one big twist. The current president's daughter is also a part of the story. Sara Duterte Carpio is the mayor of Davao City. At one point, the polls had her as the favorite to replace her father, and many expected her to run for president, but she didn't. Sara decided to run for vice president under a different party, and she allied herself with Bongbong Marcos.
Wants to be portrayed as independent of her father. She wanted her own people. She wanted to run on her own terms.
With Sara Duterte
With Sara Duterte and Bongbong Marcos, you've got the latest installment of a long-running political saga. Their families have swung between supporting and opposing each other for decades. All the way back in the 1980s, when President Rodrigo Duterte's mother was a leading figure in the revolution that got rid of the Ferdinand Marcos Sr.
When it comes to Philippine politics, there are no permanent friends or allies, only permanent political ambitions.
Now, for outgoing President Rodrigo Duterte, political allies are going to be more important, and that's another feature of these elections. Because Duterte is facing investigations for his signature policy, what he called his war on drugs.
My campaign against drug will not stop until the last pusher and the last drug lord are
It was a violent campaign to crack down on crimes, targeting everyone from big gangs to drug users, and the police were encouraged to shoot to kill. Official figures show that more than 8,000 people were killed, but the Philippines Human Rights Commission and other rights groups say the real number is much higher, more like 27,000. Because it wasn't just the police, it was vigilant killings too. There are people in groups inside and outside the Philippines pushing for accountability and justice, including Maria Ressa, the journalist who just won the Nobel Peace Prize for her work to expose human rights abuses, as well as the International Criminal Court, which has launched an investigation. Many people see President Duterte's run for a Senate seat was a way for him to retain political influence and to protect himself.
Primary interest of the Dutertes is to shield themselves from possible prosecution, especially by the International Criminal Court.
His family, himself, his allies, and some cabinet members are going to be facing cases and investigation if somebody else actually sits in the presidency and somebody who is not allied with them. So it is critical for them to be able to control power.
Now, one thing that surprises a lot of people, particularly outside the Philippines, is that despite President Duterte's war on drugs and all those thousands of people killed, he's still popular. He has 67% satisfaction rate, and this is relevant when we think about who's most likely to succeed him.
Ang katahimikan gawa ng yung iba kasi mga nagda-drugs, wala na rin siya, pero ilan na lang po, meron siguro.
Drugs, green, ganyan.
Mga ganun po. Saka ano po, naging maayos din yung paligid, nagkaroon na rin po ng disiplina yung ibang tao po.
It explains why Bongbong Marcos is a leading contender, because he is seen as the same type of a strong, charismatic leader as the outgoing president.
yung tatay niya susundin niya, yung susundan niya ng ano yan, ng yapak ng tatay niya. Maganda naman, dahil unang-una, yung mga pinagawa rin yan.
Bongbong Marcos is playing up the idea that the time when his father was in power was a kind of a golden era that he wants to restore.
I'm the son of the longest-lasting president who brought the Philippines into the modern world. All of the successes that he had, all the roads, the schools, the educational system, I would like to restore that.
But the era of Marcos Sr. was a time of military dictatorship and martial law, marked by corruption, hardship, brutality, and extravagance of the Marcos family. You might have heard of Imelda Marcos, the former First Lady, and her 3,000 pairs of shoes. But here's another twist. The Electoral Commission could still bar Bongbong Marcos because of his old conviction of tax evasion. Now, winning the presidential popularity contest is one thing, another is doing the job. Just how well the different candidates fit the description is of course a matter of opinion. There's everything to play for, and most experts agree that the political drama is nowhere near over. It's still anyone's game.